Hello and welcome to the sunny Cotswolds here in England. I am Andrea Koochin and this is My Home Biz Tips, myhomebiz.tips, where we inspire, empower and support home-based business owners. Now, we've been talking about value recently. I've done several shows which were about the value of something or other, and they seem to have each one inspired the next. And we've talked about the value of different things. And I've actually getting some feedback from people that they've gone back and looked at them again later and realized, yeah, there are words in what that woman says. So do go back and look at the others. We talked about the value that somebody has and how much value they can give to people and how they can measure that. We talked about the value of time and how you work out that what you're actually doing on a daily basis is the important stuff for your business. We talked about the value of money. We talked about the value of something else, which I can't quite remember. But today is going to be the value of a system, having a system to use. Because, and my mother would laugh if she heard me say this, when I was a child, and she used to come in and tell me about how messy my room was and try to inspire me to clear it up. She always said, you should have a system. And it got to the point where even the word system made me want to scream because I didn't want to be told how I should do things and how I should, clear up my room and all that. It didn't make sense to me. Why would you want a system? I'm an arty person and I do things the way I get inspired and so on and so forth. Wrong. Getting more grown up and having more things to be responsible for, I realized that a system is incredibly important and absolutely, utterly and totally key to being efficient. And my business is very much about being efficient and productive with a minimum amount of effort. I call it being lazy because that's actually what it is. I don't want to work harder than I have to. I don't want to work longer hours than I have to. But I know, because I understand the value of my time and I understand the value of my money and I understand the value of numbers. That was the other thing we talked about. In other words, my statistics and how much of each thing I need to do in order to hit my goals, basically. And I understand now the value of a system. And some seminar I was in a few years ago, they gave us the words that system actually stands for, because of course each letter stands for something. So a system is to save yourself time, energy, and money. And isn't that what we all want to do? Save time, save energy, save money, be lazy and rich. Yes, I could go for that. So what is a system? Well, let me give you an idea. Again, inspired by my mother, because I'm at home in England now with my family. So the other day, my mother said, do you know the easiest way of putting a duvet cover onto a duvet, or a comforter cover onto a comforter, as my American cousins would say? And I said, no, thinking obviously everyone does this on a, weekly basis. Of course, you find the corners and you struggle till you find the corners and you call your tall husband and he stands there and shakes it and then you do the buttons up. No. Her system was so ridiculously easy that I actually couldn't even believe it was true. She rolls it up. No, she doesn't. She turns the cover inside out and then she rolls it up with the duvet on it. And then she flips it over and rolls it back. And the duvet's there perfectly in the corners. It takes a minute. And she can manage a big double bed duvet all by herself with absolutely no leaping around, swearing or losing corners. It was so eye-opening. I thought, that's it. That's exactly what we want. We want the really simple, rolled up version of how to do things quickly. What is a system? What system do we start with? Well, if you were watching me a few weeks ago, you will have seen me do I consider pretty good walkthrough on Google. And I showed you some things that you can use Google to do which a lot of people probably aren't thinking about or don't know about. Put it that way, don't know about. Now, because my big thing has always been follow up and connecting with clients and how to look after clients and customers and prospects, more importantly, so that you expand your referral rates at a massive rate. On my website, well, me and my business partner have a business PhD in follow-up to do that, right? That then expanded into helping with other things. But because my basis comes from the follow-up thing, my system, the most important system for me, is my CRM, which most people think stands for Customer Relationship Manager. It doesn't in my life, because I'm not only trying to build a relationship with my customers, I'm trying to build a relationship with the people who might become customers or referral sources, right? So it's not just about customers, it's all my contacts, actually. In fact, it's a really easy way to remind me to make phone calls about all sorts of appointments, like, follow-up appointments with the vet, with the puppy, or with the dentist for my daughter, or anything at all, because it has a database where I keep the information. In other words, everybody's email address, phone number, date of birth, because yes, I send greeting cards, and that's actually part of my strategy. Notes about where I met them, what was interesting to them, how did they come into my environment, to my community? Are they on the email list? Those kinds of things. Are they in the Facebook group? All that kind of stuff. So that's my database. Connected to my database, and this is absolutely key, is somewhere where I can keep notes. And of course, Google has that fantastically. And so does Microsoft, by the way. If you're using Outlook, it's all there as well. And I believe it's all there with the Apple system too. I'm pretty sure that they have their version of the same thing. And you can probably find it with others. But I didn't want to get complicated with the value of the sale and the money side of it and calling things deals and so on. That wasn't what was interesting to me. It's not yet either. That might come later. But at the moment, that's not a focus for me. But being able to keep notes, in other words, saying that I spoke to that person, 8 minutes past 7 on Tuesday, the 13th of July, whoops. And they said that they were going to be away for 2 weeks. They were going to go to, I don't know, New Orleans to do a cooking course or something. Then when I talk to them, when they come back at the time that I've agreed, or we've agreed together that we would speak again, I can then say, how was your trip to New Orleans, right? Those notes are really important. So every time I make a connection with someone, I take note of it, right? So the database, the notes, and then finally the reminder system, which of course in Google is connected to the calendar, although they do have a thing called reminders, which is connected, I think, to their tasks. In Outlook, it will be the same. And I'm sure there's something like that in the Apple system as well. So what it is very, very simply something that goes on a calendar or gives you an alert, sends you an email reminder, something like that, telling you when that next communication is supposed to happen. So say I'm talking to him at 7 o'clock in the evening, which is what the time is now, which of course I would never do, but it's 11 o'clock where I normally am. So so I'd make that phone call at that time, and I'd write the date, and I'd say, 12th of July or July the 12th. And then I'd say, spoke to her or him, she'll be away, coming back such and such a time. And then I'd set a reminder that would say call on, and then there would be a date that would be like, I don't know, 2 weeks hence or something. What's that? The 27th, 28th, something like that. Or it might be a different day of the week, or it might be the following month or something like that, but there will be a reminder. And then what do you think happens? I can forget about it. And that, my friends, is the point. I can completely forget about this person because I know that my system, which I can trust completely because I run it and I know that I put all the information in it correctly, is going to let me know when I need to follow up with that person. Now, obviously, I didn't employ this until I was actually actively trying to keep up with probably a couple of hundred people, I think. Now, this is not everybody on my email list. It doesn't have to be everybody on my email list because I'm not talking to them. They're just getting emails from me. And if they respond, my system tracks the fact that there was a conversation. I'm talking about the people I meet at networking groups who may be, for whatever reason, asked for more information and then didn't do what they were supposed to do. And it includes the people who are clients, so that I remember if they have any questions or if they needed any help, that I can follow up with them in 30 days to say, we went over whatever it was 30 days ago or 2 weeks ago or whatever it was. Is it working now properly? Have you figured out the best way of doing this? Do you need any more help? Because once people are using something that they've got from me, a service or something that I'm providing with them, I want them to actually benefit from using it. I don't want them to be paying for something they're not using anymore. And when I have technology that people are using, it's very, very important that I keep in touch. So that's one of the other things that I do. So all I have is a system that tells me when I need to speak to people, who they are, and what I need to say to them, which means I can relax and be creative and do other stuff and look for more people to talk to. So I've probably got, I don't know, 1,000 or so people in there now. It probably would be difficult to have too many more than that because that's already a fair few calls. But I don't speak to people every week. I don't speak to people every month even. There are some people I actually don't speak to unless they've got a problem. But I do remember to keep in touch with them. If they're not on my email list, then I will connect with them somehow through Facebook every once in a while, or I'll send them a message about something that's changing or a new thing I've discovered, or I'll send them a birthday card. I'll connect with them, 2 or 3 times a year, probably, right? Or a holiday card or something. Holiday cards and the birthday cards usually go anyway with me, regardless who people are. But I will just keep in touch with them 2 or 3 times a year. Sorry, I am absolutely baking here, partly because the sun's blaring in through the window. Also, I've got a light on. So even though it's the evening time, it is really, really warm. I didn't want to keep the window too far open because I didn't want it to blow, the air to blow all over the place and flutter the curtains. So those are the important things, the information, the contact information for a person, knowing what the communication with that person has been, and then knowing when to call them. So what happens is every morning I open my computer and I have a list of people that I need to talk to that day. Now, when I was using Google myself, it actually came through on my Google Calendar. There would literally be a whole load of entries at the top or in the middle, and they were all, I gave them all a particular color. And of course, as you know, if you're using Google, you can hide certain calendars. So that calendar wasn't necessarily always there, always in my face, but I would look at it and I would go through it. And when I made my appointments, I would have it open. So if I was talking to somebody and they said, call me next Wednesday, and I already had 15 people on my list for Wednesday, I'd say, would Tuesday or Thursday do? I'm busy on Wednesday. So I would schedule those things into my calendar in exactly the same way that I would ever schedule anything else. So what I would do around about Tuesday or Wednesday of one week would be I would go into the following week, or maybe 2 weeks ahead, depending on how busy I was. And I would take an hour out of every single day, not at the same time of day. And that's really important. First of all, because you may be dealing with people in different time zones, because I'm dealing with Europe and, everyone in the US is dealing with people in different time zones. I even talk to people in Australia sometimes, and, so I factor that in. Also, because people tend to have the same routines. So if somebody works in the morning on certain stuff and wants to talk to you in the afternoon, there's no point if you're going to always have your follow-up hour scheduled for the morning, right? So I go through and I find a spare hour every day, and I block that out so that people can't jump on my calendar and put themselves in my calendar. And that is my hour of follow-up work. Now, there are some calls that I know are going to take 2 or 3 minutes, in which case I could do 15 in a day. But there are others which are going to take longer. So I do need to pay a little bit of attention to how much I've got in my calendar. But that's all I need to pay attention to. So I never have those moments where I woke up in the middle of the night and I think, oh, crikey, I spoke to George last week. When was I supposed to follow up? It doesn't matter. Now, I've just thought of something. This may have come from somebody else, but it's just come into my mind right now. Or I might have invented it myself, but I'm not claiming that. So we have the word system. Save yourself time, energy, and money. It should be systems, because you save yourself time, energy, money, and stress. Because I cannot tell you how much easier things are when you have a system in place. So the CRM kind of is a system, because my follow-up system is a complete system. It's not just the technology I'm using to track, but it's the fact that I have a particular number of days that I will follow up from. I will use text messaging. I will use emails, I'll use phone calls, and I have a certain pattern. So I don't even need to think about when the next thing will happen. So if I meet someone at a networking event on, I don't know, Monday, the 1st of the month, and they ask for information and I send them information, then the chances are they'll get a little follow-up email in, say, 3 or 4 days' time that says, depending on what it is I'm selling or promoting or what they asked for, it'll be a certain number of days and it'll say, hey, did you have a chance to look at the information? Do you have any questions? And then there'll be another thing. Now, if they come back to me with something in between, that changes the pattern. But I have a pattern for how often and what to respond to people or to send to people when they haven't made up their mind about something yet. And that's something that's really important, to know how often you should talk to someone. So as a standard, what I was learned when I was working with a coach was 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, and quarterly. I think it was 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, quarterly. So that's how often you follow up with someone with a phone call or an email in order to keep them connected to you if they haven't made up their mind yet and haven't responded to you, right? Because sometimes they'll come right back and they'll ask a question, in which case you don't want to keep going. Nowadays, there are so many fantastic systems that you can use to sort of automate responses like that, right? And I've talked about those before. If you have questions, reach out to me. My email address is andrea@myhomebiz.tips, right? So if you have any questions, I was watching a video and you said this, and if this is 3 years later and my video is still on YouTube, then reach out to me anyway, because I'll still respond. So those are the important things to keep in for that particular system, right? Now, there are other systems that relate to other things, like creating your emails, for example. And I must admit, I have slipped up with this one slightly recently. But again, I was taught by a really excellent coach that it's a good idea to put aside a block of time on a regular basis, like every Friday or every second and fourth Wednesday, or whatever it is that works, 2 hours of uninterrupted time and just write. And apparently there are people who can produce a month's worth of emails or 6 months worth of emails, depending, of course, on how often you email people. If you're doing it every day, it's going to be a month. If you're doing it every week, it could be as many as 6 months. And they churn that many emails out in one go. What does that do? It relieves the stress so that they can get on with their lives. And this is what all of these systems are about. In fact, the more I think about it, why doesn't it say time, energy, money, and stress? Because it really should. Because stress is the thing that takes us out. Stress is the thing that stops us from running our businesses. Okay, when I talk to somebody and say, how are you doing? And they go, I'm a bit overwhelmed. That's not good. Not on the long term. I mean, if you suddenly get an influx of clients and it's all a bit overwhelming dealing with it, fair enough. But if this is an ongoing thing, look at how you're managing things. Go back to the videos, look at the value of time. Look at the value of money, because that's connected. Look at your numbers, look at the value of numbers, look at how much you need to do. So how many follow-up calls do you have to make? How many networking events do you have to attend in order to get the numbers of people that you need to have the follow-up calls with, right? When you've got those numbers in place, that avoids you having to slog your guts out hour after hour after hour and go to hundreds of networking events all week long to then end up with so many people that you can't do the follow-up work. Pointless. And that's a very stressful way to live. So this is all about trying to reduce the stress that you feel. It's all about putting you at cause of your business and its growth. Because one of the saddest things is somebody who really wants to help people and serve them and gives up because they're struggling, because it's too much work, too much effort. They're too stressed out. There's too much to do, and they're not hitting their targets or hitting their goals, because then they get depressed. You know, and then if they're broke as well because they don't have enough clients and they're not making enough money, that's good enough reason for them to, you know, find themselves a proper job, right? They give up and they go back to doing something else. And that's so sad. So if you're out there and you're struggling and your passion in life is to serve people, reach out. Send me a little email, Andrea at My Home Biz Tips, because I will really, really, very happily sit down for 45 minutes or so and brainstorm some systems that you could implement and help you reduce some of the stress that you might be feeling. Because to be a business owner, to be an entrepreneur, to be able to review new opportunities and new things and come up with brilliant ideas, you need clear thinking space. You need space to create. And if your mind is full of all the things that you should be thinking about, which could be in a system, you know, an automated or a semi-automated system, then you're not doing yourself any favors at all, right? So today's talk was the value of systems. You save yourself time, energy, money, and stress. And we all want that. We all want to be as efficient as possible. So we can go and spend time in Europe and play all day, or spend more time with our children, or try out other business opportunities. You know, since I've put a little bit of attention on this idea of 5 different income streams, it's amazing the opportunities that have come to me. And if I was still stuck in my, hang on a minute, I don't have time to look at that because I'm too busy doing this, because I hadn't got a system that was efficient, I'd be missing out on lots of things. Okay, so please look after yourself. You look after yourself. Get a system in place that will allow you to relax so that you can be creative and enjoy your business and make it bigger. So much bigger. So that's how you scale. When you have a system in place, you can teach it to someone else and then delegate that to them and move on and do something bigger. Go for more clients and different things and learn new skills and go and play with the kids, especially as it's summertime. Okay, that's it for today. I wish you bye-bye. It's very shadowy. I'll see if I can reorganize the lighting a bit so it's not quite so shadowy next time, although it will be still 7 o'clock in the evening. So my day is nearly over. And for those of you whose day is just starting, have fun with it. Set up a system and let me know how it goes. Message me in Facebook to say, yes, did it, or don't know what you mean, and we'll connect and I'll help you out. I'll hold your hand and talk you through it. All right, that's it for today then, my friends. Take care and see you next week. Bye-bye.